All right. Well, thank you so much, Professor Shaw, for that introduction. Again, my name is Desiree, and I'm going to be presenting a project that I did. I created a web-based application to teach radio production in the context of learning about one's ethnic identity. During my research, I ran into a phenomenon called the immigrant paradox, in which it seems as immigrant youth, the more time they spend in this country, and the more times their families spend in this country, because it extends into the second and third generation, the more that they're at risk for increased delinquent behavior, increased delinquent behavior, decreased health, and educational outcomes. And this is obviously a big problem because it presents a strain on our school systems. The reasons that there are many social scientists that have a lot of different theories of why this could be. Some of the reasons is the initial frustration with the acculturation period, the vast intergenerational, vast intergenerational distances at home between the parent that comes from another country and the child that's growing up in this new environment. Also, the fact that a lot of these families first arrive in urban centers that are sometimes steeped with crime, poverty, and inefficient schools. And there's also the fact that some of these racial groups are discriminated against because they are a minority group. So all of these things combined can leave a youth feeling very, reject the idea of upward mobility, and also the idea that they have to work hard in school to get what they want, because the social structures around them make it seem like that doesn't really matter. So what I propose is my project called From Block to Block. It is a private social network, and I'm going to go into it now. There we go. So this is a home page. This is where the user first gets introduced to the platform. Here we have a map of the city. A little bit obviously beyond the city, but I was trying to include the 5 boroughs, and I realized when I looked at it on the map it was kind of hard to do. But what this map represents, or what these markers on the map represent, are different audio files that were recorded and uploaded throughout the city. What you can do as well on this homepage is filter the map to only show different elements of sound that make up a feature radio piece. So we have ambient noise, interviews, music, and some narration pieces. I'm going to pay you a little example of one of the interviews that were taken. We're still figuring out how to map these correctly. But basically, when you click on a marker, you'll get some information about that audio piece, the title of that audio piece, as well as a little description. So this is our interview with firefighter Ken. Also an ethnic theme that goes along with this audio file, because that is something that we want the students to focus on, and what kind of element it is, and the user that uploaded it as well. So let's see.
About 30 years ago, one of the fellows said, "Why don't we have a Christmas party for the kids down the block who are from the Kennedy home, which is a home, special home for kids who have, disabilities, mental disabilities." And we just have continued to do that every year. They get a big kick out of it. They make a big deal of it. And for us, it's one day. They're with them every day. They're wonderful people. They teach these kids every day. And now we have just young kids. They're only, because the state takes care of the older kids. But these are young, pre-K kids. So we just have a Christmas party. Santa comes, gives them, some presents. One of the local guys that used to live here, he contributes the presents every year. So it's a wonderful day, and they get a big kick out of it. And for us, it's like just one day that we're doing, and they make such a big deal of it. And they said, you guys are doing it every day. But the kids love it.
All right, so that was an example of an interview. And again, all these sounds are recorded through a radio journalism class that I actually co-instructed this semester, and I'll get into that a little bit more as we go ahead. So I want to emphasize that this is a private social network. That means that the people who are using this network are either teachers or students in a radio journalism class. So this is the platform that the entire public has access to, so they can see what this project is about, listen to some audio pieces, also kind of get like a feel for what kind of sounds these students are collecting. But to actually get into like the nitty-gritty of the platform, you have to be able to register, and this is done through a whole registration process where the teacher has to register first, get approved, and then she gets like a code to register students. But since I already went through that process, I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, I'm actually already inside. All right, so I am a member of this From Block to Block. This is my profile. It begins with a proclamation. I identify as a Dominican American. And I put this up here because I want students to initially let the world know what they think of themselves. So not without any labels. And I was actually thinking of another, like a label I can use, I guess, a term I can use to identify myself. I'm an Afro-Latino Dominican American. And so students can put whatever. And when I did a survey of the students in my class, it ranged from a lot of things. Like some people were probably just Dominican. I am Dominican. Other kids were like, I'm mixed. There's a lot of things going on. And so here they have the chance to put exactly what they think they are. Down here we have badges. These badges symbolize different tasks that the students have completed in the workshop section, and I'll get into that later. And then we have my library of sound. Again, some information about it, like what type of element it is, and you can listen to the sound as well. We'll go back to my presentation. All right, so when you first get into the platform, you are in the lobby. And the lobby presents the three main components of my platform. We have the workshop, the library, and the map, which is a little bit different than that initial map that you're first presented with when you first come to the site. This map is for users only. So they not only can they filter by element, they can also filter by ethnic identity, and they can filter by how they, the different, I guess, if the audio file is private, only to themselves, because they can decide how to share it, their class's audio, or if the audio is public to the entire network. And the map is just another way for students to really think about, make connections between the audio files that they're recording and the neighborhoods they're recording them in. And they can make connections that way, and also realize that maybe if there's congregations of certain ethnic identities, they can be like, okay, this is a place where I can go next for an interview, or this is a place where I can go for resources of any type. Sorry. Okay. The library looks a lot like what was in my profile page, where it just has the audio files listed. It also has all the recent audio, so it's like a feed, as you would, I guess, like the Facebook feed, all the recent files that were uploaded. You can also see who's uploading them. So if there's like a user that's like, oh, I really like this person, this member's feed, they can click on their link and go to their profile and see their whole library and maybe get some ideas, or even contact that person and be like, hey, can I download your piece and use it for my own project? All right, and the workshop. The workshop makes up the bulk of the guided instruction in my platform, and it's made up of individual lessons that the students go through to teach about these different elements, and it also has a place where students can work collaboratively to build a radio piece. Let's see. This is a little hard to read, so I'm gonna just go into, I actually made a prototype of one of the lessons, the ambient noise lesson, and I just want to let you know how the structure goes before I go into it. So the students are introduced with what that element is, the ambient noise, a definition of it, and how it adds to a radio piece. They are then introduced to a soundscape, the task that they have to create. So this soundscape, again, they get a better definition of what a soundscape is and how ambient noise adds to that soundscape. And then they have like these interactive tools so that they themselves can create a soundscape with audio files from our audio library. And finally, they're asked to create their own picture with sound. And you'll see when I go into the platform exactly what that means. All right, so. Okay, so this is that first lesson. What is ambient noise? After some exploring, they'll see that this is a hot link, and it comes up with a definition. You can click on some of these words here. These are a little bit harder words that my students had issues with because they are usually, I guess, the immigrant youth that I was working with had low reading levels, so I did provide some more definitions for them. And then they get their first example. And here there is a little prompt. Describe everything you hear. It's a way for students to think a little bit, listen more intently, and to reflect really on what they're listening to. So if I listen a little bit, I can hear a basketball bouncing, kids playing, right? People talking. Okay, and then they can save this. Doesn't really work right now, but you get the idea. When they come to the next page, the goal is to create an image with sound. And this is something I've tried to emphasize not only in this lesson, but throughout the entire platform, that radio is a really powerful tool that they can use to create these vivid imagery in the listener. And so we go into how ambient noise does this. It does this by setting the mood, describing a setting, and signifying an event. Example for setting a mood. What is the mood? So I want you guys, help me out. What is the mood here, if you listen carefully?
Suspense.
Oh, God.
Suspenseful.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad there's a spell check there. Okay, and so then they can save that. I just want to let you know when they save this, their answers are kept in this text area, which they can revisit later on. All right. All right. So let's listen carefully. Where was this audio recorded? What was that? Good. Okay. And signify an event. Great. Thank you. Great answers, guys. All right. So now that they know what ambient noise is, they're going to figure out how to use this, how to create an image with sound. They're going to go on to the task portion, which is creating a soundscape. Again, they're presented with a definition. And remember our first example. This is the very first model they were introduced with. So show that this is that first model. So let's say this is what I wrote initially. I know it was a little off. A ball bouncing off the ground or swishing through the net, sneakers hitting the ground, children playing in the playground. So these sounds are working together to create this entire scene, to describe a basketball court, to signify that a basketball game is taking place. So then students are introduced to different soundscapes that are already made, different models, and they're asked to play together with like the sounds that are already embedded into this model to see if, when put all together, they're able to create the image that is provided. And the students can oh, there you go. Okay. All right, so was this soundscape able to create the image with sound? And they're presented with a little question and answer, some prompts. Does it set the mood? If so, what was it? This sort of thing. All right. I'll give you one more example because this is fun. This is my digging again. Are we creating the sound? this image of sound? And again, the students are. I found it funny because my students actually, when they were like, that doesn't really quite do it, actually.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and
The sun beaming down kind of changes, it looks less,
less ominous. Yeah. And my students actually called that out. They were like, no, I think that you should have added praying or like people chattering, because that's what people do at cemeteries. And that's great, because they really start reflecting on like what kind of audio is needed to actually create this picture. All right, so let's make our own soundscapes. Unfortunately, I was not able to. I'm gonna go back to my slides for this. Sorry, I need to interrupt my presentation. Anybody have a power cord? Sorry.
We're back, right?
Yeah, I forgot to do
Okay,
that.
behind you. Right behind you, there's a, right there.
There's one right here too.
Oh.
We're back. Oops, sorry. All right, so the next step is for the students to actually create their own soundscapes. And again, they're getting the prompt. They need to create the picture that they have to create that picture with sound. So this time, the students are going to choose audio from the audio library. That's already that audio library already introduced you to, and try to build this soundscape. They go ahead and they do this 3 times until they collect 3 different soundscapes, and then they submit it for peer review. Then they get their, a peer's soundscapes, and they're able to play around and see if they can, by listening to the soundscape, see if they can match the pictures to the right soundscape. And once they do that, they're asked to evaluate their peer's soundscape. So they can evaluate, again, with parameters that were set before. They can also get these prompts. I like the soundscape because, or I think this soundscape can be improved by so-and-so. Once they finish this section, they do it with each soundscape. And once they're done, once their task is completed, they earn a badge, because that's fun. And it also signifies to any user or a teacher that's going to that student site where they are in the process in the workshop lessons by those badges that appear on their profile.
Are they doing these lessons during a class, or are they doing them out of school?
The lessons do occur in class, but in case they don't finish, they can go and continue the instruction at home. All right, and the last part of the lesson is they have to now create their own picture with sounds, but this time they are told that this time they don't get a photo, but they should have a clear picture of what they want their listeners to see. And specifically, they need to go into their communities and create collect ambient noise and create a soundscape that reflects their ethnic identity. And I put a little prompt here, like, I'm going to create this really awesome quinceañera scene, but with sound. And that's the challenge. They're given instructions on how to do this. They need to upload their audio. And there's a link here that goes to the upload audio page within the platform, and to do that. All right, so like I said, this is the general this is the structure of this ambient noise lesson, but this is actually the structure that transfers to all the other lessons on the platform as well. So instead of ambient noise, you got the element. They're introduced to the element, so either ambient noise or interview or music, or the narration. They're given a task. So here they were asked to create soundscapes. For music, they may be asked to create a playlist. For the narrative, they're asked actually to create the narration. They're asked to create a narrative and add their own narration. And the final part of the lesson is the ethnic identity mission, where they go out into their own communities and collect sound. So again, let's go back to the immigrant paradox. The immigrant paradox can be broken down into 3 main parts. There's the increased distance from the cultural values at home. Again, that the students seem to lose sight of what their parents have in mind for them, and like the cultural values of their home countries. There's a growing distrust of upward mobility, which unfortunately is caused by the social structures that are in place and sometimes in these urban centers, urban communities. And there's a general lack of engagement with school and academic material. So, what my platform proposes to do, what From Block to Block From Block to Block intends to help, it proposes that students will foster bilingual skills and bicultural experience by going out into their own communities. If they're going out and reaching out to their own ethnic identities, they're going to be sometimes speaking in their home languages. For example, these students are Latino students that are speaking to the head of a community-based nonprofit, and they're conducting their interview in Spanish. Another thing they can do is cultivate relationships not only with their peers, but with other non-family adults, which studies have proven really helps students be more engaged in their school environment. This actually happens to be the class that I taught. You recognize me, I'm in the left corner of this picture. These are really great kids, and I was happy to work with them. And it also increases social capital. It helps students tap into those resources in their community so they can go back to them again and again. This is that same firefighter Ken, whose interview we heard earlier, talking about all the different things that the firehouse does for their surrounding community. And again, the main thing is that it provides these students with a meaningful role in a community of practice centered around radio journalism, which is very helpful. All right, future directions. Where I see this project going, I didn't put this in as a slide, but something I definitely thought about and was reminded with Frank's comment earlier. Definitely a mobile platform, because it would be really great if students, like while they're recording the sound on, let's see, on their cell phone, they could upload it right at that place and it goes directly onto the map, which would be great. I also am really interested, really passionate about creating in-school radio stations that broadcast the students' work and their final pieces out to the surrounding community. Something I hope this will eventually go into. And build a nationwide, and why not, countrywide network of schools and classes that are connected through radio journalism through this platform. And I envision this network consisting of students and teachers of radio workshop courses, radio professional peer mentors, and even community members eventually joining the platform in order to cultivate better communication, interschool collaboration, and an understanding of our increasingly diverse communities. And hopefully this will signify to our immigrant youth that they do have a meaningful role in not only in their own communities, but advancing progress and understanding from block to block. So, thank you.